Hey, welcome to the show, everybody. Welcome to Council of Future Conflict, episode 518. My name is Scott. I'm joined by Joe and Watcher. We're talking about pro-Palestinian nut jobs being the problem. And we're also talking about, we mentioned it on Wednesday a little bit. I wanted to go a little deeper into this because literally, what was it, after Wednesday, before, we would have had the opportunity to talk about it on Friday, unfortunately, but we didn't do a show on Friday. But we had the assassination of those two Christians that worked at the Israeli embassy. And this just highlights what we talked about, Joe, the idea that there is terror going on in America weekly, every week now. It's literally a week doesn't go by that something doesn't happen. Sometimes it's not as big and flashy as this story is going to be, and I get the feeling this story is going to hang around for a while, as much as a lot of people out there would like to see it go away. And there's a good reason I think a lot of these mainstream media outlets are not talking about very much about the fact that they're both Christians. Though I found an article that absolutely tells it exactly what they are, but I think that's part of the narrative, right? Anyway, we're gonna be talking about this today. I apologize for not being on the show. Needless to say, it was all my fault. And if I had a little pre-planning, i.e., phone battery and all this kind of stuff, and then I will say that the DMs going down on X did not make it easy, and I totally forgot that I had Signal on my phone, so I probably could have worked around that, but still. Anyway, we didn't get to do a show on Friday, and mea culpa. That's it. Joe, you've got a lot of awesome stuff in your rearview mirror, and you still got some stuff coming up, don't you?
Yeah, I've still got a bunch of people here from training week because folks got here having a good time and just don't want to leave. So it being Memorial Day, we're all going to hang out a little bit and have a good time. I know that Jason, who goes as Boilerman in our chat, is on his way over to make yet another fantastic breakfast. It was really a competition here between Jason and Matt, NC Scout, as far as who could make the best meals. And we who were in the classes and at the facility were the beneficiaries of that competition. It's been not a bad food week.
Yeah.
But we got a lot of great people here. A couple more. There's Boilerman still here. Reverend Hazmat from our chat just walked in and handed me a white monster. So that guy continues to be a rock solid anchor here. The guy has just been fantastic, doing all kinds of great things for us, fixing things, doing maintenance around the camp, all kinds of fun things, and not to mention playing an outstanding OPFOR actor for me during the classes here. It's just been absolutely fantastic. We've had over 60 people through here in the course of a week. A bunch of them still here. We had a great campfire last night to top off the whole thing. And I'm sad kind of to see everyone go today, right? Everyone, the final groups trickle out. But it's been pretty fantastic. We've had folks from absolute newbies up through a very experienced colonel, and of course we had Kay, one of America's special operators here, doing a fantastic job teaching. With Matt and I in the middle. It's just been cool to be around such a great group of Americans, a great group of people, and can't wait till the next one. And we have more and more coming up.
Yeah, man, I tell you, I was telling you before the show started that I'm just so jealous of you guys being able to hang out and just be American guys hanging out. I miss that a lot. And you guys know my circumstance, and you understand why that it's not as easy for me to find guys like that to hang out with. So.
But you'll be here next year for spring training.
I will. I will. But until then, I'm living vicariously through your stories and posts. And, the original thumbnail for this show was going to be what I was kind of terming the solution. And the solution is a lot of guys like us sitting around campfires, talking about what's going on good and what's going on bad, and what we can do to kind of bring up one side and pull down the other side. So,
I neglected to mention something that's actually fantastic. Juan Gringo from the chat was here, and he gave a great discussion about what they did on their ranch during the Great Migration Crisis, and just a great guy to have around, fun dude to talk to. He joined us for a Bible study, and we had a great time. We were able to share one of our Bible studies live in person because several members of it were here. So very, very cool thing, man. You have to get out and meet each other face to face. I stressed this yesterday. I'll continue to stress it. You cannot build trust over time over the internet. You have to see each other face to face, sit around a campfire as Americans or as humans have done for millions of years. Sit around a campfire and share stories and become closer friends.
Yeah, I mean, that's there's nothing more primal, right, than hanging around like a bunch of guys after the hunt. You can go back 25,000 years and find guys doing exactly this. They go out for the hunt, they bring back their kill, they hang around campfires and talk about like, hey, how did it go that day? And, what are we going to do tomorrow? And, how are we going to handle the, whatever it is that's in our world that's affecting us, right? So there is definitely some sort of a visceral connection to just being guys doing that. So, and it's not to say girls can't do it too. Sure, the girls can do it, but like I said, there is definitely something special about guys hanging around the campfire. So I just wanted to say that I was there's the picture. That's a great picture, by the way.
For the record, in that photo, you can't see her, but there is Sarah, a fantastic person who comes to training regularly. And then last night, even Mrs. Tactical Wisdom was sitting around the fire. So,
yeah. Whoa.
And I want to point out, hold on, before we hit that real quick, that one gringo put out a tweet telling Mrs. Tactical Wisdom very understanding and sweet, which I don't think has happened in a while. So we were glad to hear
it. Rich Turner 42 for $35 says, thanks for being here today on this Memorial Day. Also sounds like training was a great time. Just some grift to say thank you. Keep going, just sending some support. We really appreciate that. I mean, we don't like this thing here outside of what you guys directly decide we deserve. We don't charge for it. We don't really make any money off of this. Rumble is very small. YouTube is zero. And even the stuff that you give, they take a fairly big chunk of. So the fact that you think that we deserve anything is huge to me. Please just make sure you're telling other people, not just about this show, but about the broader kind of concept of what we're trying to do here, which is let people know what the hell's going on in the world and what they can do as individuals to be able to be better ready for that shit when it shows up on their street, right? That's what this show is all about. That and just having Joe share out the link on X. Those are the two things that.
Oh boy!
I can just kind of
followers. That's all.
I just you want your followers to hear your thing. I want them to hear it too. So Anyway,
speaking of which, did that get recorded? The Bible study last night. People are asking in the chat.
No, we don't record those because I want folks to feel comfortable discussing the issues in their lives that might be negative. So we don't record those at all.
Makes good sense.
Yeah. Watcher, how you doing, brother?
Tired and busy, but pretty good, man. Updates. There's a ton going on the farm. So yesterday my wife pointed out that they were having a Memorial Day sale at the feed supply store, and that they were giving 10% additional off to veterans, and that they were still running the 5 free chicks per bag of feed deal. So we went and bought an entire month's supply of feed at 10% off and I doubled the size of my flock yesterday. We now have 180 chickens on site total, which is great. And the plan for this, and I'd like to announce this both to kind of give a little free advertising, but also to let you guys know, Braxton McCoy has worked out a meat market for producers in our area. I've asked him if I could participate, and he said they not only would they love to have me, but they need more meat on the market. So yeah, look for that, and we're gonna have something like, I think, 115 coming available in late summer.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, man, I'm pretty stoked.
Here's the thing: what you don't want to turn into is a chicken farm, because let's be honest, it's a narrow fight to see what stinks worse, a chicken farm or a pig farm. I think the pig farms get it just because the slurry ponds usually are a lot.
That would depend on how they run it. We're doing both of them on open pasture land.
I got it. I understand, but there's a, it's a scale type of thing, and you know what I'm talking about. All right. Anything else? Oh, you know what?
Chicken farm is a sure way to get the government to come and tell you your chickens are sick.
Exactly right, and then want to kill them all.
Yeah, the limit for that around here is 130. Or sorry, not 130. 300. If I go over 300, that's when I've got to start letting the government man know about my birds.
So before we move over into odds and ends, there's two things I want to bring up. First one, of course, is Memorial Day. Now, I am a terrible Memorial Day person. I enjoy like taking the day off and all that kind of stuff. But as somebody who has a certain connection to a lot of the stuff that they're talking about on Memorial Day, I kind of like, there's a personal side and a professional side. Like, it's like, and I don't want to talk about the professional side, so I'll talk about the personal side. Is I always feel like Memorial Day is not for people that are currently wearing the uniform or are still alive tend to get a lot of the kind of like pats on the back and all that kind of stuff. No, Memorial Day is all about people who aren't here anymore. And I think it's important for us to remember them. That being said, many of the stuff that goes on turns into like attaboys for those of us who are still around. And so, I kind of like, it's a complex relationship, right? With how are you supposed to feel about that? So it's just one of those kind of things that I think, if you know somebody in your family or in your circle of friends or in your life that is no longer here who served, that's worth kind of thinking about that person, especially if you have that connection. If you don't have anybody that you're connected to that has died, I think absolutely just kind of keeping in mind like the kind of thing that you're looking at there. You can have a little more of a historical perspective. The field of crosses, right? It's not really crosses, but that's
the idea you're trying to convey was best conveyed by the great warrior poet Lee Greenwood. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me.
Yeah, understanding where it comes from and the sacrifices that people made, it doesn't make you less, but all you have to do is just take a pause to think about it. And if it's just a prayer that you say, or just something, it doesn't have to be a big display or anything like that. It just needs to be something that you deliberately do during your day. And it doesn't have to be long. You can enjoy, you don't have to feel bad when you're, like enjoying the barbecue and all that kind of stuff. That's perfectly cool. But definitely just kind of take a few minutes out of your day and think about that. So there's that. And then the other one is kind of sad. And if you're a Christian conservative, absolutely who Phil Roberts is. And so Phil Roberts has died. And, people don't live forever. We all know that. But this is one of those that's like When it started to become like a dirty, kind of thing to be a Christian conservative or whatever, he proudly did it. And he kind of pushed back against the narrative, and the fact that they were able to get that show get so huge during the 2012 2013 timeframe, which is exactly when all of this left wing just nonsense started to creep in. I thought that was something else, and so this guy did it on a lot of levels, whether it's on a business level, like what he did with Duck Commander, or whether it's keeping it real to his kind of family background, and that's embracing all the stuff that they did as a family, or the morality. I mean, just everything that he, keeping Christ centered in his life. I know that we all could do better at that. But yeah, and the other part about his story too, if you know much about his story, is he was absolutely a redemption story. I mean, Joe, this has got to be somebody who at various times you've looked up to. And for all of us who've kind of done dumb things in our lives, knowing that, there but for the grace of God go we, right?
Think about all of the goodness that Phil Robertson brought to his local community by just being there and raising the awareness of what they do in that small town. So that's one of the things that Matt brought out. He put a spotlight on the town they live in, and was a force for good, no matter how you feel about him. And he is a sad loss.
Yeah.
By the way, I see a lot of people talking about some of the governments trying to superimpose George Floyd on Memorial Day. I'll just point out that the Washington Post said that George Floyd was shot and killed by the police. So I don't put much stock in anyone who praises George Floyd.
Yeah. Amen. Over on Rumble, we got Hunch and Dirty Roofer for $5 says, Joe, you got to share your kids' show link. It's proper father duties.
Well, listen, hunch is hunch. But I actually told that story around the campfire last night about how you and I were just sitting there innocently in the Cracker Barrel when the lady dropped that on us, and it became legend and lore, and is now history.
Well, the sad thing is, Joe, is literally people.
She didn't realize.
Yeah, she meant well, but it didn't happen like twice in like 24 hours.
Well, no, she did it. Oh, no, you're right, because somebody at the G camp said the same thing, right? Who is this, right? And but it's just she didn't know the chain of events she would set into motion.
I know
with that little conversation. So,
yes, the deep lore of this show is deep indeed. And the cool thing is how much off camera, off stream stuff that kind of folds back in. It's that's one of the reasons why I'm looking forward to get back and hanging out with you guys in person, because there's for all the fun stuff that we do on this show, there's going to be tons of fun stuff that we will get to do outside of the show, and a lot of it's kind of stuff you would never talk about on stream. So, all right. The chat seems a little on the quiet side today. I'm just saying, chat. You guys seem pretty quiet. We got a brace of people watching the show, and just a lot of hunches again, Joe.
It's a contemplative day.
Yeah. I think a lot of people just are waking up late today. I think that's what it is. I think the crowd of people is, they were looking forward to, sleeping in. Or, you know what? How many people in the chat is literally still laying in bed listening to the show because you're like, oh, I'll see what's Future Conflict's doing today. All right. Anything else before we dive into the show today, gentlemen? Joe, this first odds and ends is one that we've been following. You were the one that brought to this my attention. Yeah, Janine Rogers, me. Yeah. Hey, no. Steve says already did my weight training. I mean, makes one of us.
Damn.
On days like today that are service related, I don't do shit. Yeah, see, well-armed corgi, right? Some just prattled around until woke up right before the show started. See, the thing I like about our viewers is that they are up and at 'em kind of folks, which is exactly the kind of people you want. This is the show that there's no parents' basement dwellers get up early enough to listen to our show, so we don't have that kind of ilk in our chat. Just a bunch of salt of the earth people who actually have to get up, and it's like, oh well, since I have to get up, I can listen to this future conflict show. All right, so this first story is Venezuela held an election for an oil-rich region. The main problem is it belongs to another country. Joe, this is one of those kind of stories that, like, I'll be honest with you, I was surprised that they didn't jump on this before. It makes me feel like I just don't know enough about the region, and I know that is true for a certainty. But that being said, I thought this would have been a no-brainer for Venezuela. I think maybe the only thing keeping Venezuela out of the region, is the fact that Exxon is the primary offshore Guyana offshore oil extractor, and what that means is that the U.S. would take a dim view on this. What's your kind of take on this story kind of developing to where we are today?
I think this is predictable. It's just been on a longer timeline than what we did. This is kind of what Russia did in Crimea, held a referendum, had them come across. They did it in Donbass. They did it in Kherson. And I think that it's just proof that he's out there adopting the Russian model, listening to his mentors and doing what they want. Just hold a referendum. Go ahead. That makes it yours. And which is interesting. And we see the Chinese activity in the LOC today, very similar activity. Dictators pushing their limits to expand territorially.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and let's be honest, dictators never just kind of gobble up regions. The old kind of adage of they want people and land and power, right, is kind of gone away, and it's all about resources, and it's like monetization of other people's wealth. And it takes money to make money, and Guyana doesn't have a lot of money. So now that they've got this fairly good, offshore oil, and if I remember correctly, it's also onshore, but Exxon is only exploring offshore.
You did take a look over at Rumble there. You have them stacking up quickly.
Reverend Hazmat, Scott out here shilling for shekels like a true OTAN, man. You know it, baby. I know my Mossad masters, they've got a lot of other things on their plate. So maybe the check didn't clear. So I gotta hustle money some other way. And then of course Squishy Hunter says for $20, happy Mossad Monday, happy Memorial Day. Also, congrats on the George Floyd for 5 years drug free.
He's also really beaten his domestic violence problem because he has not beaten a woman in 5 years.
That's correct. For the first time since he was 12.
This is where if you had the Leonardo DiCaprio from Django Unchained meme, this would be the perfect time to play it. Oh yes, happy. Anyway, yeah, the check didn't clear, so we're shilling for shekels today. So if anybody
look at, it's been so long since the KGB had money, you don't even hear us mention KGB Friday anymore.
Yeah, it's Russia doesn't pay. So
are we showing that Macron clip today or no? because there's some breaking news.
Oh, well, we should.
Well, if there's new news, we can. Let's see where we are at the end of the odds and ends, and we'll fit it in before the brush beater store. If there's some new news, watch or see if you can develop that.
There's a statement from Macron, so I'll tell you about it in a minute.
All right. Be prepared. Yes, please do. All right. Let's jump back into Venezuela. Joe, I mean, but the current model is very much about, it's like, I don't need the neighbors because it's just a bunch of people and some jungle I can't do much with. It's a money sink. Wait a second. They have oil under that money sink. Oh, I'm all for it now, right? I mean, and this is how you get China involved in building highways in your country, is to have a country on top of something that China wants. There's very definitely an extraction related business going on. And if there's anything that could take somebody off of their ideological high horse, it's, give them resources to extract, and all of a sudden they calm down so that they can kind of get busy making money. If anything has caused Jelani to sell out in Syria, it's because he thinks he can monetize his success, and maybe he feels like he's too old to keep fighting. Wouldn't surprise me. A lot of terrorists turn into old men statesmen. A certain Nelson Mandela or Yasser Arafat kind of come to mind. It wouldn't be the first time the president of the United States has met with this is a little off topic, but it's still, this is kind of why Venezuela is eyeing, Guyana. Let me read a little bit about this article here. Venezuelans on Sunday, for the first time, elected a governor and other lawmakers for Escobedo, an oil-rich region that Venezuela has laid claim to, even though it's widely recognized as being part of neighboring Guyana. Escobedo has 125,000 inhabitants, who account for more than 15% of the English-speaking country's population, did not take part in Sunday's election. Shocking. You mean it's like you expect a dictatorship to allow the people in the area that are being governed to allow them to vote for who? The vote, which is widely criticized by Guyana's officials, instead saw Venezuelans pick the six governors, six deputies to the National Assembly of Venezuela, and 7 to a regional legislative assembly. It's unclear how the officials, once elected, plan on running the territory. It's because they're going to use, Russia and Chinese back.
Let me expose a little bit of the chivalry in the article. When they say it's widely recognized by others as part of Guyana, they mean by literally everyone except Venezuela. It's not just widely; it's completely.
Yeah. Yeah. That's absolutely true. I guess you could say 50% of the countries involved don't recognize it, but the problem is they don't they said, and 99% of the rest of the countries in the world do recognize it. To include, I have not heard anything public from the CCP or Russia about officially recognizing the Escobedo region as part of Venezuela. Let's see. The election is the latest provocation in a long-running territorial dispute between Venezuela and Guyana. It comes more than a year after Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro ordered the creation of a new state within the territory, which is roughly the size of Florida, called Guyana Escobedo, following a referendum which saw Venezuelan voters approve the move. Of course they approved, because they look at that as money that they can get to give them more free stuff. Maduro's first announced in January that a vote would be held for the region as part of a larger election for governors and lawmakers across the country. I call for freedom of conscience for the people, and for the people to elect the best for the governorships of the 24 states. Why Guyana hasn't reached out to India for help with this problem is beyond me, but definitely American This is in the Western Hemisphere. It's an American oil company is doing the lion's share of the oil exploration. So it absolutely is on our list of things that we should get around to. On Sunday, the U.S. State Department's Bureau of Western Hemisphere Affairs called the election a sham. The United States rejects all attempts by Nicolas Maduro and his illegitimate regime to undermine Guyana's territorial integrity, including the latest sham election in the Escobedo region. We are supported by historical and legal and moral grounds regarding that territory. So I guess this is, Joe, historically, this didn't just happen in the last year. This is something that's been back and forth for a while, but still, it was never controlled by Venezuela, right? So basically, let's see. Venezuela has claimed Escobedo as its own for decades, arguing that within its borders during the Spanish colonial period, it has dismissed an 1899 ruling by the international arbitrators that set the current boundaries when Guyana was still a British colony. Guyana has controlled the region since gaining independence in 1966. The recent discovery. So, in modern terminology, it's absolutely been part of Guyana the whole time.
So by British colony, they mean Indian colony, and I'm mostly interested in what India decides to do.
Well, didn't the Brits basically import the workforce from India, and that's how you got Indians over there? And then when the Brits basically did this, they just said, "All right, Indians, you guys can stay, or you can do whatever you want. We're out." And isn't that how it kind of worked? And they basically just turned it over to the Indian caretakers. Isn't that how that worked?
Yes. I'm sorry. Yeah. Yes, that is. I was answering somebody else's question somewhere else, but yes.
Yeah. So I mean, this is. I'm curious as to how much actual interaction India has with it. I mean, I think that if these people look to India as their cultural kind of, touchstone, then maybe India should get involved. But otherwise, it's an English speaking country. The most broadly spoken language is English, though there are a lot of Spanish speakers and there are Hindi speakers in the country. Let's see. Guyana filed an application with the International Court of Justice to try to validate the 1899 decision. The case is still under review pending a final decision. The court ordered earlier this month that shocking that an international organization might potentially give credence to some left-wing tin-pot dictators' ideas on borders. You think maybe, guys, that like a CCP filling the pockets of people from that court might have something to do with it?
Could be.
It's almost like it's corrupt.
There's a reason, right?
Well, there's a reason why the ICC and the World Health Organization and probably the ICJ have made so many kind of like head scratching, at least from a right-thinking American, head-scratching determinations over the last 20 or so years. It's almost like they're infiltrated. Not so. You're right. The Indian administrators are essentially Britain owned India for 200 years or something like that, and they raised their administrative culture to the point of almost as efficient as the British culture was back home. And so when you have literally millions and millions of British trained people, why not export them and pay them money? This is one of those kind of conflicts that you don't hear about in the regular American media, and it hasn't risen to conflict status yet, but it's definitely heading there. Joe, this is exactly the kind of things that you would say, "Oh, I wonder why people weren't talking about this, before the war started." This This is all those things that happen before these wars start that we talk about. Watcher, you got any kind of thoughts on this?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of how to turn that into a tagline, because it's actually kind of a good thought. That's literally kind of the show. Is like, remember all those things that you asked? Why didn't anybody cover this?
Well, I think there are patterns here, right? And so this is actually a good segue to the next story, right? There are patterns to conflicts before they begin, and if you look at the history of a lot of these conflicts, you can see things, and it's not always an Archduke Franz Ferdinand moment. A lot of times, it's a kind of a collection of much more mundane things. If you were looking at Russia and Ukraine in the 2000s, you could see the behavior of Russia, like with what they did with Georgia. And this is not to say Georgia was right or wrong, but to think that a country on that used to be part of the Soviet Union could just say, we're going to do whatever the fuck we want, and we don't care what Russia thinks. Well, I mean, Russia has an opinion, right? And if you live next door to a huge bully and you basically give him the finger and say and do exactly what he told you not to do, when he goes over and smacks you inside the face, and your friend from like 5 blocks away, the United States, doesn't get there in time to save your ass, don't be fucking surprised, right? Because that's exactly what happened in Georgia, and this is exactly what happened in Ukraine. I guess the commies are trying to retake Jonestown. They can have it. They can have it. Phil Coggins, member for 32 months. See, guys, this is what long-term support looks like. I want to say thank you to all of our members. Just remember, if you're a member on YouTube, you've got a free member chat that you can use, and it's usually it recharges every 30 days. So if you haven't used your member chat in a while, jump on in the YouTube chat and say hey from using your member chat. By the way, if you're not a member, you can do that for $5 a month. It automatically it's a kind of nice, easy way that you can help us out if you want to do that. If you're not, that's cool too. Just because we shill for shekels doesn't mean that you have to do it. All right, so let's get back to this. Let me open it up first. I didn't have this one open yet. So in my neighborhood, oddly enough, you guys want to know something kind of funny here? Looking at this story from the Korean Jungan Daily, this is one of their major international English language outlets. Sorry, I just realized I didn't have the Rumble chat popped out. This is one of their major U.S. outlets. Basically, I can see my house in this map. If you're ever curious where I live, I don't mind doxing myself. Let me. You want to?
That's funny.
Can you zoom in on this? Is this a no? It's of course not a zoomable map.
You technically live in the projects. You live in government housing.
No, I don't. I live outside the government sphere of.
Okay.
I just happen to live right next to government housing. Literally, there's a wall separating us. Yes. Anyway, if you see where it says Suwon right there, just kind of like just right around in there. Anyway, yeah, Suwon right there, right over. Anyway, so this is what they call the West Sea here in Korea because it's west of Korea, but China calls it the Yellow Sea. So China won the marketing battle. If you want to know more about marketing, read the book Propaganda by Edward Bernays. My friend Watcher here shilled that over the weekend. If teaches you how like propaganda and controlling the information through marketing spread throughout the world. Anyway, the book Propaganda is not inherently evil, but it definitely was used for evil purposes over the years. All right, so what's with all the no sale zones? So I really want to do this as Jerry Seinfeld. What? What's the deal with all those no sale zones? I mean,
What is the deal?
Deal with all of them? Yeah. More funny business. Yeah. Speaking of funny business, more funny business in the Yellow Sea as the election nears. By the way, guys, guess what the Korea calls the Sea of Japan?
The
South
Eastern
Sea.
Sea.
The East Sea. That's right. That's right. Yes. Though they did get the Korea Strait, which is here at the bottom. Anyway, let's see.
I've seen BTS and their associated fans. Are you sure Korea's straight?
I'm gonna show you one picture just to refute all of that.
Yeah.
Sorry.
You're good.
I'm just saying, for every BTS, there's 10 of these.
Oh, there it is. Well, okay. Yeah, facts.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Though you may argue,
women. Sorry.
Though you may argue that there's a reason why one of Korea's exports is women. So anyway, not to undermine my point, but stay on target. All right, sorry. Korea's Ministry of Foreign Affairs has expressed concerns regarding China's recent decision to designate no sail zones in the Korea-China Provisional Measure Zone of the Yellow Sea, where maritime boundaries between the two countries remain undefined, a hint at military drills. As China continues to argue that its unauthorized installation. So notice the bias here. This is a Korean language or a Korean outlet, and how they say, oh, this is unauthorized. Well, no kidding. It's unauthorized. Unauthorized installation structure for fishing purposes. The recent move is being interpreted as a signal to the gray zone provocation aimed at expanding Beijing's influence in the region. Gray zone provocation refers to small and passive aggressions that are not fully on military attacks, but provoke the opposing country nonetheless, i.e. what's going on with the Philippines. On Thursday, the Lianyong branch of China's Maritime Safety Administration announced the no sail zones would be in effect from 8 a.m. on Thursday to 8 a.m. on Tuesday. The maps released, just for the Memorial Day holiday. The maps released by the MSA show parts of the zones overlapping Korea's exclusive economic zones. We delivered our concerns through diplomatic channels to the Chinese side, as establishing no sail zones in the PMZ would exclusively limit freedom of navigation, and that's problematic, the foreign ministry said on Saturday. We are responding in close coordination with the Ministry of National Defense and other relevant agencies, including reviewing whether this action by China aligns with international maritime law. Now, look at the structure that they're building. I mean, these are like not nothing. It's got a helicopter. I mean, it's basically an oil rig without an oil well attached to it or any of the drilling apparatus. Basically a man-made island that they can just post up anywhere in the world. Now, Joe, this does not make a wonderful, military installation, as the Iranians found out back in, the Reagan years. But yet it does allow them, to permanently station military forces in an area so that they can respond very quickly. Any thoughts on just the nature of these, just from a maritime kind of security standpoint?
From a maritime security standpoint, this is China conducting amphibious operations and running World War III completely unopposed throughout the entire eastern half of the world. Look at the strategic location of this no sail zone. It effectively
go back up to the map there, Watcher. Scroll back up and show the map. Yeah.
It effectively limits access to the Yellow Sea and to its key ports of the Chinese landmass. So it's a very, very good spot. If I was looking to secure a flank from American and South Korean forces, and maybe even Japanese forces in the event of a conflict elsewhere, maybe further down the coast to the south. So it does look like protection of a flank, and they're just seizing territory in the middle of the ocean, and literally no one is going to oppose them.
Yeah. And so, and there is definitely an intimidation, an intimidation factor and all that kind of stuff to it. Reverend Hazmat from the Rumble chat for $20 says, Scott out here bragging about living next to strippers and pawn shops might as well be Colleen. Let me just say that the villa is on the opposite side of Post from where I live. So I would love, you know what, I could show you what my view looks like if you guys are interested. I've actually shared that on my X before. Watch, I'm going to send you a picture and you can share that. But Joe, I mean, this is clearly the kind of thing that is, it's almost like, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? It's clearly provocative, but it's just one of those kind of things that, as long as China is basically able to act unopposed in all this, it's so what? Cry more, I mean, and given the timing with the Korean media and the election going on right now, it's pretty it's kind of it's I think they're doing it because nobody in Korea is paying attention, honestly. Everything in Korea, it's like, is it in the media? Sure it is, because here it is in Jungan Daily, right? And there's a very small minority of people who follow this type of stuff, but for the most part, with the Korean presidential election in full swing right now, I can't remember when the election date is. I think it's in the beginning, first week of June or something like that. There's nobody paying attention to any of this stuff. So it's kind of like they can get away from it. They can get away, with it as long as there is another shiny object out there that's distracting the Korean population. And let's be honest, what's America doing about it? What can America do about it? The answer is not much. Gentlemen, any further thoughts?
On whether or not you live by the strippers and pawn shops, or
no, I mean, you brought it up there. I'm just saying they don't do strippers in Korea. That's not
really a Korean thing, right?
And they don't even do like drinky girls and all that kind of stuff the way they used to do. I mean, I'm not saying they.
I don't know. Those K-pop girls sure look like it. So
those are just girls, Korean girls.
Oh, that's right. They're just girls, like 16. But.
No, they're all legal. They're all in their early 20s. Actually, that is Blackpink, by the way. If you're interested in who that is,
point out that legal does not equal moral.
No, if you're 20-year-old girls are in your area. That's right.
Absolutely.
If you're 50, then you could appreciate beauty no matter what age, as long as you understand, your moral. All right, so check this out, gentlemen. This is a view of where I live. Just so we got the rice paddies have recently been filled up, and they've just did planting, so we're getting ready to have the season. And definitely for about a week, these fields are pretty ripe, because they have to spread the muck and everything. But
Scott,
yes,
you could have literally just posted this video.
I know. I just posted the Stolies.
Fields, motherfucker.
I mean, I live by the rice fields. Anyway, all right. Enough degeneracy. So there is a part of this that is kind of like, hey, we're actually doing fishing stuff here.
You know what? That's actually significant that you show that photo, Scott, because most people look at where the U.S. bases are along the DMZ, and they think of it as the Seoul Incheon megapolis, right?
Yeah.
And you show that it's not all that. So.
Well, the interesting thing is Korea builds way different than America does, and like if that picture is a great example. If you bring it back up, Watcher, and I just want to point something out. So you've got the rice paddies, and it's there's like if you look at the aerial imagery, the entire part of the U.S. base is just surrounded by rice paddies. Mostly rice fields. There are other crops that they do, but like 90% of them is rice. But if you look over in the distance, right, you see those are all high-rise apartment buildings. It's like field, high-rise, ultra high-density housing. And are there some single-family houses around? I mean, some, but not a lot. I mean, it's mostly apartment living is what I would go so far as to say 94% of housing in Korea is high-density apartment complex. Reverend Hazmat for $5 over in Rumble says, is Scott admitting to being a swamp creature with all that slow-moving water? These aren't really swamps.
It's not so much the slow-moving water that gets you. It's the human feces that fertilizes it.
Now, Joe, that is a scurrilous lie. That is something that went out of vogue back in the 80s. You know this, but
Yes, I agree. I'm just having fun, Scott. That's all.
I know. Never let a good meme stop you from. I don't mind.
Koreans are probably the Asians I respect the most. Anyway, I have known a good number in my life, and I've been told that my Korean is with a Korean accent. So. Pretty solid there.
Lost Core 23 for $10 says Gooding CFC over on Rumble. Thank you very much. Appreciate your monetary support and your presence. Way more valuable than money is you guys just being here in the chat. By the way, I just want to say hey to Mexican Ironman over there in the YouTube chat at Tactical Wisdom. I think Joe is going to give me a beating once I meet him for my dating life choices of recent. I mean, I do draw the line at 50% of my age at 55.
so I'm going to probably give him a beating, but not for that. I mean, we're going to have a good time out here.
Yeah, real quick before we go on, I've kind of talked all I want to talk about with this. The whole point here is that China is definitely using a mixture of gray zone and economic encroachment into the Korean EEZ. And there's literally nothing that Korea could do about it, or is doing about it. Can they do something? Sure, they could, but they choose not to. Joe, we got an event. You just had training week this past week, and you've got another event coming up. What do you want to talk about? That field days and all.
I sure do, and I'll actually talk about two events. The first one is a fundraiser event we're going to be having for the camp here. It's going to be an Elvis impersonator concert. It's coming up on July 12th and 13th. You can contact me about tickets, or if you just want to make a donation to the camp. But 2 weeks after that, we're going to be holding Shield Field Days here at Camp Ponderosa. Always a good time. You were here last year. Washer was here last year. Reverend Hazmat, Boilerman. A lot of people were here, and we had a great time. Hunch was here. We had about 200 people here last year. We want to get about 2,000 people, and getting folks out here just to have a great time, talking about preparedness and outdoor skills. A great weekend of hanging out with like-minded people. We're going to be throwing up a bunch of family-related things, so you could bring your kids and just come and hang out for the weekend. Natalie bought her kid out the last time. She also bought a boyfriend who I love to hang out with us because that dude is cool. Lance is a good dude. We had a good time hanging out. So come on out to Shield Field Days, July 25th to the 27th. It's just going to be a great time. Angry American will be there speaking. Mexican Ironman, who is not a YouTuber, is going to be here, and we're going to force him to be a YouTuber with us. He can come and YouTube with me all he wants. We're going to have a good time. It's going to be a lot of fun. Mexican Iron Kid, apparently, according to the chat, will be with us also, which is even better. So come and check all that out. The good people at Shield Arms are sponsoring it, and they'll be out there the whole weekend having a good time. For the record, I had in my hands Shield's brand new knife, which the Mongoose, which I'll be talking about probably on Wednesday, because I have a sneaky prediction that I will end up with one in my hands later today as soon as they open. So we'll see how that goes. But come on out to Shield Field Days. It's going to be a cool thing. We'll do some live CFC stuff here. We'll do probably a whole show with Mexican Iron Man and Angry American and me. And I just told Brandon, the CEO of Shield, in a meeting we had last week, that I remembered how he resisted coming on with us, Scott, right? He was like, I don't really want to do this. But then he ended up staying way longer than he planned because he was having so much fun. So I told him we would probably rope him into another live show, and he was down with that. So you definitely want to check that out. And while you're there, check out the rest of my schedule. We have added a whole bunch of classes. The one that I really want to talk about is August, like the third week of August. You can come out and do fieldcraft and community security operations back to back, knock out all that training in 1 week, and get out here. I already have people registering for that. So come on out, take a class, learn something. Things aren't getting any better out there. And in fact, as we're about to be talking, there's a lot more violence. It might not be as widespread as we saw in 2020, but it is way more violent. So come and train, learn some skills, and hang out with us here at Camp Ponderosa. And even if you don't want to just train, this is a great place to bring your family for vacation. We've got plenty of room, and we like to try and keep it to like-minded people.
What's the date on that again?
What?
Shield Field Days?
July 25th through the 27th.
25th to the 22nd of July. So that's gonna be a great time. Like I said, I was there last year, and I had a great time. I can't be there this year, but Watcher, you're gonna be there, right?
Yeah. We're gonna do our best to do so. We should be able to.
I wasn't pushing for it last year because Shield kind of brought some people there to video some stuff, and we didn't really, outside of our live event, we didn't really push much. But this year I'm not going to be there, so I want to see like a lot of this stuff that's going on, and I want to get some feeling for it. So I'm hoping maybe we can make some videos while you're there, maybe Watcher, and then put some stuff together and release them here, like probably on this channel and on your channel, through your locals. And there's depending on the content, there's a lot of different places we can put it. On that
note, I am Jake Pryor was here with Matt, NC Scout, and they made a whole bunch of videos from the training events this week. So we may be able to share some of that, but we'll absolutely do that. And it'll be pretty darn cool. We will make sure that we do that this time, share a lot of that out. Yeah.
I mean, I guess it's one of those kind of things. If I'm there, because I'm there, I don't think about it as much. So 24th through the 26th, right? You said, is that what you said?
25th, 26th, 27th. By the way,
25th,
Brett Weir from Project 223 Preparedness and I will be doing a first aid class that Friday all day. It'll be $100, just a quick intro to first aid to get folks to come on out for the event, hang out for the weekend. But we want to kick it off with a first aid class. That's the one preparedness skill you can use today. So get on there and learn.
That's awesome. Anything else tactical wisdom related that folks need to know about?
Well, an important tactical wisdom adjunct is the $1 Rumble rant from Reverend Hazmat, who's sitting in the next room.
Yeah. Go ahead and read it. Okay. Reverend Hazmat for $1 says, learn something or I'll be your op for and make you giggle in your gear.
Listen, it is a sight to see Reverend Hazmat walking up the road here with his hat on sideways and engaging with your checkpoint. It is something you have to experience.
That's funny. Yeah, I mean, there. Whether you're in the military or whether you're in the in the real world, being there in person, so many things happen like at these events in person. Whether it's the military training is a great example, that until you see it, it's like you don't realize what it is. So um, absolutely. The stories I've already seen come out of last week, I'm sure there would be a lot more stories coming out. So yeah, like I said, I'm jealous. I wish I was going to be there, but we'll try to spread the love to all the folks who can't make it as well. So we'll figure that out. Let's see. Like Doc says here, if you haven't done it already, hit the like button. It's free, gentlemen. All right. Apologies. Let's move on. Final story here. Joe, I thought this was kind of this doesn't surprise me. This is like list of color me surprised, right? Putin's helicopter was at epicenter of Ukraine's drone strike. So when Putin visited the Kursk front after, kind of celebrating he wanted to, check in with the locals there in the military and but people are shocked that the Ukrainians figured it out and tried to, take him out. I would have been shocked if they didn't do that. That being said, evidently Vladimir Putin was so upset, he basically tried to turn Kiev into a blazing firestorm overnight here or over the weekend. Putin was allegedly the target of an assassination attempt by Ukraine. A Russian military officer claimed Putin's helicopter was the epicenter of a Ukrainian drone strike in the Kursk region on May 20th. Russia's air defense systems intercepted the drone and destroyed it before it could reach the president's flight path, i.e., it really wasn't that close, said Russia's air defense unit commander, according to Russia's news agency RBC. The commander told the news agency that from May 20th to 22nd, the Russia came under a massive drone attack from Ukraine, with the country's air defense destroying as many as 1,170 drones. He said that during Putin's visit to the Kursk region on May 20th, there's an unprecedented airstrike from Ukraine as air defenses shot down 46 drones. I would like to point out the intensity of the attack significantly increased during the flight of the Supreme Commander-in-Chief's aircraft over the territory of Kursk region. Therefore, we simultaneously engaged, yada, yada, yada. He said the drone was detected approaching the flight path of Putin's helicopter and was immediately neutralized by Russian air defense forces. Putin was in Kursk earlier this week, his first visit to the region since March. No injuries or damages were reported in the incident. However, the incident raised concern of the capabilities of Ukrainian drones, with Russian authorities probing whether the strike was attempted assassination or a broader psychological operation by Kiev. Watcher, this kind of goes to some of the stuff. Did you get a chance to watch that video about where they talked to the Russian drone designer?
I still haven't finished it, but I got to watch a couple parts of it. It's very interesting. We need to figure out a way to cut it down to digestible for the audience.
Well, the interesting thing about it is how much credit that guy gives to the Ukrainian drone manufacturers and operators. So it's definitely not we're Russian, we're great. He even goes so far as to say that the Ukrainians kind of led the way on most of the big developments. So this doesn't surprise me that they would use a drone attack against Putin in that area. Like I said in the beginning, it would surprise me if they didn't. Joe, I mean, clearly going after Putin is going to put a target on their back. Does any of this surprise you?
No, not at all. But I'm going to point out that Putin's probably better protected than the U.S. president. And because they've always had that institutional paranoia. And it's how governments used to be changed in the Soviet Union, right?
Yeah.
So Vladimir Putin, given his upbringing and early career, is well versed in the fact that folks might very well try to depose him. Pretty sure he played a hand in the events at the end of the Soviet Union. So I'm not surprised by it at all. But I think that Putin is a pretty cagey target, and you're going to have to be on your game to beat that guy.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. I think I think dictators in general tend to be fairly paranoid about their security, and so this is something that they would take they take really serious. Anything else on this one, guys? I mean, I just thought that was interesting. Oh, there was another Russia story that I thought about having it on the show today, but it just kind of didn't rise to the level. So over the weekend, over the past, I don't know, 4 days or so, there was a pretty significant offensive operation in the Luhansk area. If I don't know how many of you guys in the chat remember all of our wall-to-wall coverage that we used to give Ukraine, Russia back when the war was a little more dynamic. But the Severodonetsk, Lyman, Kupiansk, I think, is up in there. Anyway, in that area of the front, the Russians had a 20-kilometer offensive push. And the Ukrainians were caught completely with their pants down. Not that the Russians covered themselves in glory, just the Ukrainians are getting, it's almost 10-1 in some areas as far as force ratios, with the Russians having more forces there. So when you're depleted, you're always going to have places. You can't be strong everywhere. And if all the Russians have to do is find one spot to kind of push a bunch of forces through, and then that will murder Ukrainian villages' names. Yeah. Well, hey, brother, if you can do better, feel free to start your own podcast. I mean, it's not easy. Anyway, so that happened over the weekend. But once again, stories you never hear anywhere else unless you're just a kind of a wonk for that type of stuff. Before we move on, Joe, any thoughts on Russian kind of movement in that area?
Well, I think that's not really the area I would be watching right now. I actually believe that's a distraction. I believe I would watch the 50,000 fresh troops streaming in just to the east of Kharkiv, and I would watch that.
Yeah. Well, this is the southern part of that area, right? Which is Kharkiv.
For the record, I said Kharkiv in honor of Scott when I know darn well it's Kharkiv.
Kharkiv. Because I'm American and I don't care. Americans get to set, the names of places in the world. By the way, my daughter, she gave me she's like, why does Donald Trump think she's actually pretty conservative, but she certain things irk her. And she said, why did Donald Trump get to rename the Gulf of Mexico? That doesn't make any sense to me. She really went off on that one. I thought that was very funny. Anyway, I thought you guys would appreciate that. All right. Before we move on, we've already done tactical-wisdom.com for today. Before we move on, let's do the Brush Beater Store ad. All right. Today, we're tackling the surge of domestic left-wing terror, and we're thrilled to bring you another ad from our trusted sponsor, the Brush Beater Store, arming you to face the chaos. In 2025, left-wing extremists are ramping up firebombing of businesses, doxing patriots, assassinations, disrupting cities with all their radical BS. You need to be ready for anything. At brushbeater.store, the Tiny SA Ultra Spectrum Analyzer is your secret weapon, scanning RF signals to detect surveillance or enemy comms faster than any scanner. Perfect for staying ahead of urban threats for precision in a fight. The Kyber Optics MDO, exclusive to Brushbeater, is a compact red dot optic that's deadly accurate for close quarter defense, mountable on any pick rail. To outmaneuver radicals, their spiral-bound USMC scouting and patrolling manual teaches proven recon and movement tactics for small teams. Check out brushbeater.store/collections/optics or collection/field-manuals to grab these now. Use our code CFC10 at checkout for 5% off the Tiny SA, Kyber Optics manuals, or gear like helmets or training courses. Other orders over $100 shipped for free. Visit brushbeater.store and prep for the fight. Huge thank to Matt for his relentless support. Matt, your dedication to the Council on Future Conflict and our community strength is unmatched. Thank you. Head to brushbeater.store, use code CFC10, and stand firm against domestic terror. Now, on to talking about domestic terror. Gentlemen, pro-Palestine is the problem. That was the original title for today, but what were you going to say,
I was just going
Joe?
to point out that I recommended in my my vehicle operations portion of the class yesterday running the Tiny SA Spectrum Analyzer when you are driving around in hostile territory to know when someone keys up a radio near you. Great tool.
Yo. Makes war driving very interesting.
Yes, it does.
Hey, real quick, but while Mexican Ironman's still in the chat, I just want to say that your buddy Valiant was talking like literally future conflict kind of stuff the other day. You know, we need to find a way to get him on the show. Bring him on.
Well, again, you mean, because I think he's been on before.
He was on. When we did the big fundraiser thing with Legal Mindset a couple years back. Yeah, he was on there. Oh, but anyway. All right. Let's go into the pro-Palestine stuff. So, guys, this is kind of like, shot chaser, right? So I want to set up the DC assassination of the Israeli embassy personnel with the problem. Like, why is this happening, right? Now, we've talked about this in the past, but I think it's not like they're going away. It's not like this is something that just started either. I mean, if you've been following ever since the Palestinian terrorist attack Israel on October 7th, this has been a, kind of, what was it, about December is when it really ramped up, because you had about a month of pro-Israeli stuff, and then almost like somebody's flipped a switch. The algorithm update in social media, especially on TikTok, started pushing pro-Palestinian messaging. And
it's almost like a change of administration caused something to happen.
Shocking. And so I just wanted to kind of give a little primer on this before we go into the recent events of last week. Pro-Palestinian activists. So these are other actions that have been going on recently that show the kind of like the kind of stuff that let's be honest, the news really doesn't focus on, right? Because if those two individuals hadn't been assassinated last week, nobody'd be talking about this stuff other than to say that maybe just kind of a mention in the local news or something like that. It wasn't major national media. Pro-Palestinian activists target Ontario food terminal with blockade. Now, what you have to have is 100 of these kind of events to find one crazy and then shove all this propaganda. Edward Bernays, by the way, if you want to read more about propaganda, and then and figure out, and then he goes and does something stupid, right? So this is a kind of a proven formula. It's not crazy talk that this stuff happens. I mean, it's tried and true. Pro-Palestine activists target Ontario food terminal with blockade. There are troubling reports that the Ontario food terminal, the largest wholesale fruit and produce hub in Canada, moving 2 billion pounds annually, has been disrupted by far-left activists chanting "Free Palestine." Mass protesters stage a blockade at the food terminal, preventing freight trucks from accessing Canada's largest wholesale fruit and vegetable distribution center. Let's see. Citizen journalist Carrie Marules wrote on X earlier Sunday, morning that the demonstration began shortly after 2 a.m. Ahead of the day's scheduled delivery. Now, Joe, protesters don't just show up organically at 2 a.m. I mean, this is clearly orchestrated direct action that is designed to destroy as much of this food as possible, because with fresh food, it's all about like just in time delivery, right? If you're 12 hours late or 24 hours late, you start writing off significant percentages of all the food that's in this pipeline. And there's a good reason too why it's food, right? Because without a little bit of food, all of a sudden, the world goes to shit. Joe, you've famously said that we're 24 hours away from, we're 48 hours away from the end of the world because of food shipments.
It's the 72-hour rule. Get it right.
Yes. Yeah, can't remember everything. Go explain it for the folks.
I think that this is this kind of activity is going to really expand. They started doing this. The original thing was just going with Israeli container ship landings, and now it's expanding to all kinds of other things, attempting to put some sort of pressure on everyone's lives. I don't know how that's going to actually work out for them in the end, but it's a good attempt, and it is drawing eyes to it. And we, as a collective group of people on the right, need to understand the risk here and understand the danger. These people are more committed to their cause than you. And I know we like to talk a great game on Twitter and on Facebook, but when's the last time you went out and actually protested for anything?
At 2 a.m.
Yeah.
Or at all. Right. No, you're spot on there, Joe. I mean, this kind of gets back to that fire and the things that you're talking about around the fire. So what exactly are the Free Palestine protesters trying to achieve by targeting a critical agricultural checkpoint? Well, this is the kind of key piece that we're going to carry into the next segment, right? It's less about Gaza and more about their true agenda rooted in parasitic Marxism, using Gaza as a cover or a skin suit, right, for a broader agenda aimed at collapsing Marxism. More footage from the stage blockade. So we just watched some of that. Let's see. Yeah, there's more videos. Yeah, you're pulling it up. Dozens of activists block the entrance where the truck delivery at the food terminal. Lift the siege, let them breathe is what they're chanting. Let's see. 1 year ago, pro-Palestinian protesters disrupted critical U.S. infrastructure, shutting down airport terminals, blocking bridges, causing major highway congestions, and targeting corporate distribution networks. We asked a very simple question back then. Are pro-Palestinian protesters being hijacked by Marxists to destroy capitalism, freedom, and democracy? The answer is yes. The Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine, or PFLP, a Marxist-Leninist group designated as a terror organization by the U.S., has ties to destabilization efforts on U.S. college campuses. According to the Director of National Intelligence, the PFLP is a terror group based out in the Gaza Strip and the West Bank.
Has been.
Yep. It unites Arab nationalism with Marxist-Leninist ideology. It promotes the destruction of Israel as integral to the struggle to remove Western capitalism from the Middle East and ultimately establish a communist Palestine state. Sounds similar to a lot of the Kurdistan liberation kind of propaganda as well. The PFLP has a public-facing arm called Samidun that operates in the West. The NGO Monitor notes that both of these organizations had a strong presence at encampments, demonstrations, and riots on American college campuses. Students have been documenting carrying PFLP posters, flying the flag, hosting their speakers, and reading from their publications. The point we're making is paralyzing critical infrastructure and choke points across America has little to do with helping Gazans. Instead, these parasitic Marxisms hide behind Gaza and BLM, and we'll talk about that later, to advance their true agenda, collapsing the West. What do you think? What do you think life would be like in Gaza if the West were to collapse spontaneously?
It would look
would
like
life,
a lot like life in Gaza today, but with less electricity.
Yeah, right. And there's no chance of any food showing up if because shockingly, all that food aid that's going to come to Gaza ultimately will be coming from either the West or from Middle East countries doing things so that the West will like them better. It's funny how that works. All right, let's move on. So Canada, that's first up. Next up is Basel, Switzerland. I thought everybody was clean and polite in Switzerland. Guess not. Pro-Palestinian protesters, police clash in Basel during Eurovision. Pro-Palestinian demonstrators clashing with riot police in Basel as the Swiss city hosted the Eurovision Song Contest Saturday. The protester demonstrated against Israel's participation in the contest while it ramps up its war in Gaza, clashed briefly with police in the center of the city shortly before Israel's Eurovision event. Let's see. Blows were exchanged, and the police used tear gas and rolled in a water cannon truck as they strived to block demonstrators from marching through the center of the northern Swiss city, thronging with Eurovision fans. You know what's ironic, Joe? How many you know a little bit about like security preparation and American police departments and things like that? How many decent-sized cities in America do you think have water cannon trucks?
Have what now? The last part?
Those water cannon trucks. You know, like the armored anti-riot vehicles.
None, because that's not an American thing. We really should, but we do not. They absolutely need to have it. We don't do that. I do know that my water cannon works on my fire truck. And I've got some improvement plans for the fire truck to make it a fire technical. Although the other day, as I was driving around, I came across an Air Force fire rescue vehicle, which is semi-armored already, and I thought we need to trade 100%, one for one. But anyway, I digress. Well, we need to use those water cannon trucks in America. We just don't.
Yeah. So the other thing, the thing that America didn't have in any kind of massive numbers until, well, let's be honest, I think maybe the 90s, but probably into the 2000s, was a large number of neo-Marxist terror and protesters showing up, disrupting American cities. Outside of maybe like Seattle, I remember back in the 90s, there were some protests, that was the first time I remember seeing Antifa and other kind of Marxist organizations, but that was almost entirely based on like what the G20 protests and things like that. So it was very economically focused protests. But yeah, Marxism is a recent kind of thing here in America. So there was no need for that type of thing. But in Europe, it's kind of like been a thing since the since the 1800s. So anyway, once again, Antifa using pro-Palestine as its, and so if you go down to the next picture, Watcher, now on the front row, you don't have any kind of, but just look at the signage, right? And then look at some of so you've got Eurovision 2025, Paz de l'apartheid. So basically they're saying that it's Israel's an apartheid state. You've got the Palestinian liberation, liberty, unity. But look at that white flag in the background, Joe. The red star circled like that. Anytime you see that, is literally like, hey, by the way, we're communists and we're, this is what we stand for.
But I equate the Palestinian flag to that anyway. But yes.
Yeah, I agree. But it's kind of like the gay pride thing. It's like something that most people see and they say, oh, well, gay pride, but they don't see gay pride equals Marxism, right? Well, we all know the Palestinian political organizations are entirely linked to Marxism, with the exception of some that are linked to radical Islamists, which, let's be honest, in some ways are worse. Because then they're so religious they'll actually kill themselves, whereas communists generally don't do that. Anyway, so it goes on. I'm not really interested in the details. I just wanted to show you. So Canada, Switzerland. Let's see what we got next. England. There's an Andy No coverage of a Antifa members gathered for a direct action in Brighton, England on May 24th to try to shut down the pro-Israel protest just days after 2 Israeli embassy staffers in D.C. were brutally assassinated outside a Jewish museum. So this one is not ambiguous at all. When Watcher brings it up, you will see they literally hanging the Antifa flag and the Palestinian flag on the same pole, just so you know, and so you make the linkage. So there's your Antifa flags and the.
Oh yeah, and the Cuban flag. Keep that one in mind. That'll be one of those special hints and clues that will become useful later.
Yeah, the Cuban flag. By the way, China hasn't forgotten about Cuba, and I think we're going to start seeing a lot more Chinese stuff on the island of Cuba.
Keep in mind, too, that at a lot of these pro-Palestinian protests, Chinese nationals are being arrested. And they always claim it's a Chinese student, but I guarantee you it's an MSS asset who is helping to stir the pot because it benefits China.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, anyway, so Canada, Switzerland, England, Palestinian protests serving as a surface level skin suit, if you will, for neo-Marxist operations and direct action. Now, it's not just the Palestinians that get this special kind of neo-Marxist makeover. And this is something that we saw kind of over the weekend. And we're going to start seeing it probably more and more as the weather starts to, as the weather's now warmer. And as you need these types of events to marshal public support for things. So, like let's be honest, the Black community doesn't come out for pro-Palestine for the most part, but they might come out for a kind of resurgence of BLM and George Floyd. Let's play this next one. This is George Floyd supporters now blocking traffic in Chicago. Now, look at this footage, guys, and give me your analysis of the composition of the. By the way, there's a camera dolly there in the front, so clearly some money has been put into making sure they document all this. Let's watch the video here. So they're saying if we don't get it, shut it down. Here's what I want to know, guys. What is a group of white protesters in Chicago, a city with a ton of African Americans in it, and then none of them decided to come out for this protest? What are they gonna, if they don't get what do they want?
I have a better question. What are they? Actually, it was the same question. What is it they want, and what are they going to shut down? Shut it down. Shut what down?
Right. Well, so there's the Palestinian flag, by the way. I just wanted to there's a connection there. George Floyd, white protesters, Palestinian flag. And then what's that flag? Look at that. We got some red flags in the back, i.e., I mean, it doesn't get more communist than a red flag. Maybe a red and black flag.
True.
But
No, that's true.
Here's my opinion on some of these flags. If you fly a Hamas flag, Hezbollah, or PFLP flag, you are you should be arrested. That is just that you're representing a domestic or a foreign terror organization. You should be arrested for that, straight up.
yeah.
That's material support. Well, not material support, but it is providing support.
Yeah, so material and moral support, right? And for every terrorist out there, there's 10 people that support them directly through various different ways. So it's that is the. I mean, that's the model, right? That's the model that the Al-Qaeda terrorists in Iraq used. And in order for those. For those, so in addition to the 10 supporters, those are direct supporters where they supply a safe house, or they supply food or other logistical support. Then you've got the 20% probably of a population that supports the supporters, right? It's like, oh, I would never get involved, but I understand what they're doing, and I think they're all good people, right? That person doesn't have to do anything other than just give them moral support, not necessarily material support. Yeah, Squishy Hunter makes a great point. Same comparison for a commie star. It's no different than a swastika. Yeah, that's exactly right. It is literally just remember, when you see a communist symbol, you should think, how would most people feel about a swastika, because it's exactly.
If you go up one, he has another good point. I'm at the point where I see someone with a cappy head and with the same disgust as a Klan hood. Absolutely, it is a Klan hood, just a different color.
Yeah, especially the ones that are
too about those cappy heads. When you see a black one or any other color, it's okay. The red one specifically signifies the Palestine Liberation Organization, which is a terror organization. Famously, it's all that Yasser Arafat ever wore.
Yeah. Anything else on this, guys? I just want to kind of set that up so that that is what happens in the world, and that these types of events and protests are what you need to happen to find the Maggionis and the guy like from last week who assassinated these young people.
Well, I will point out that Antifa-related folks have claimed responsibility for the mass power outage in France. In France,
right? Yeah. So this is and then we've also got a mass power outage in Louisiana as well. So I mean, these will be things we talk a little more about later in the week, because we'll get a little more context on them. But yeah, not to be forgotten, right? And then Joe, I want to use these kind of data points, and then that article you shared, the Civil War one. I think it all becomes very kind of valid, when you start putting the pictures together. Bill Coggins for $10 over on YouTube says, once again, the only difference between Stalin and Hitler is who they thought the Jews were. That's right. Well, I will say that one of the big differences is that Hitler didn't think that the Jews were his people. Like he thought they were like infiltrators that he had to root out, right? He did that industrially, whereas Stalin just wanted to kill his own people, and he didn't care. And Mao's the same way.
I'll point out that even though we really talk more about the Holocaust, they've killed an equivalent number of Jews, Stalin and Hitler.
Oh yeah, 100%. There's a reason why the Russian Jews were one of the largest, minority Jewish populations in Israel, is because the Russians never targeted the Jews, because they were Jews. They would target religious people because they were religious, right?
Right.
Exactly. And the Jews have a history of hiding, whereas Christianity didn't have a history of hiding, right? And so that's one of the reasons why the Christians died in larger numbers, or maybe larger percentages than the Jews.
I suppose that's the moral superiority of communism over fascism, is that commies kill on an equal opportunity basis. It just so happens that they kill an awful lot of people.
That's right. Well, they kill a lot more people, but at the same time, it's through just the inherent governing processes of their governance versus doing it as part of an industrialized. There is something very horrific about like how the Nazis treated the Jews. That being said, was one type of murder better or worse than the other type? And that's where I don't think there is.
Hey, I want to interrupt because I see him in the chat. I want to wish a happy belated anniversary, which was yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
To Blaine Pardo and his fantastic wife, who was just a delight to be around.
Hey, happy birthday, Blaine.
Yeah. Joe and I, and we both got to meet her when they came to Louisville for our event. Is that 2 summers ago already, Joe?
Yep, it was.
Wow. It seems like just yesterday. So congratulations, Blaine. I'm sure you think just like me and Joe do. It's like, how did I get so lucky? And in your case, you definitely lucked out, brother. She's great. Congratulations to you guys. Blaine says Stalin used mass murder to intimidate and maintain power, much like the way my wife intimidates me.
Oh boy, and you wonder why you have issues.
Oh, Scott fixing to get himself actually celebrated on Memorial Day.
I don't think she's awake, but let's not. All right, American Terror. That's what I want to talk about next. Speaking of wives, okay. DC, Free Palestine shooting. I don't have that one. Let me. Did you put that in? Yeah, you did. Okay, I'm pulling it up now. Come on, post millennial, don't do this to me.
Ha! Are they chastising you for being a filthy foreigner?
Yeah. It's Cloudflare. It's what's doing it. Hold on a second. I'm gonna have to go through archive. Hold on a second.
Not a problem.
Oh, good Lord.
There's no previous archives, so you have to wait a while. Yeah, it's all right. Just do it off the screen. I'll go slow.
All right. No, it was archived 3 days ago. All right, here we go. DC Free Palestine shooting suspect charged with first-degree murder praised Luigi Mangione posted death to America report. What's up with the weird facial hair on all these assassins here lately?
I can barely grow them. Pubes
anyway.
Coming out my face thing. Yeah. Real quick, I just want to say, so from the chat, somebody asks, 764 is a wild network. I could see something like that being an issue in politics. I agree. We've been trying to invite the primary researcher to come on for a while to explain that to you. And given that none of the three of us have a ton of expertise in the field, we're going to save that until hopefully she can get over here.
Oh, is that the whole trans thing?
Yeah. No. This is the different thing. But
okay.
We'll talk about it when we get there.
All right. Can I point out that physiogenomy is a thing? Look at Luigi Mangione and look at this guy.
I mean, facts. The man accused of shooting a couple from the Israeli embassy in Washington, D.C. this week reportedly posted praise for Luigi Mangione and wrote "Death to America" and as well as "I voted for Hamas" on social media. He has been charged with first-degree murder in the case. A criminal complaint states that Elias Rodriguez, 30, has been charged with murder of foreign officials causing the death of a person through the use of a firearm, a discharge of a firearm during a crime of violence, as well as 2 counts of first-degree murder. According to the New York Post, federal authorities are working to connect a social media account reportedly linked to Rodriguez. Law enforcement told the outlet Rodriguez, a socialist activist, yelled "Free Palestine, free Palestine" as police were taking him into custody, and was arrested for the killing of Yaron Lashinsky, as well as his girlfriend, Sarah Lynn Milgram. The couple was set to be engaged next week. Posts from his ex account praised Luigi Mangione as a killer of the United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson, by the way, another act of terror in America, political assassination, whatever you want to call it, as well as other political violence. The social media account with the handle of Crypto Leather posted at the beginning of 2024, "Happy New Year, death to Israel." One post claimed that 80% of the country applauds the targeted annihilation of healthcare and insurance execs. Okay. Apparently arguing to support Mangioni's death. With Trump won in November, the account posted on X, "Don't blame me, I voted for Hamas." Another post from December stated, "Violence does not have to happen, but if it does, then it should." In another post, the account wrote, "Death to America." Let's see. This is a X post from Dan Bongino. "I have a few updates on last night's shooting, and I want to share with you all in the interest of transparency, out of respect for the investigation and the charges being aggressively pursued." Oh, is it not gonna? Let's see. Oh, you gotta be kidding. There we go. I'm trying to open the link from archive, so it's. We are limited in what we can immediately say, but we want to share as much information with the public as possible as we work through the process and seek justice. The FBI is aware of certain writings alleged authored by the suspect, and we hope to have updates on the authenticity very soon. The subject is in custody and interviewed last night at approximately 1 a.m. As this is pending investigation, we will share more with you when we are able. As for our WFO office, the Washington Field Office, I don't know. I don't know what the WFO means. The FBI believes there is no ongoing threat to the public at this time. At the same time, I want the public to be assured we are following up on any additional leads to ensure that we do our complete and total due diligence on this. Above all, please pray for the families of the victims. This is something no parent, family member, or friend should have to go through. The FBI sends our condolences and will offer full support as the investigation continues. I see, despite all the things that I think the FBI under the Trump administration has been dropping the ball on, I think this is one of those kind of things that they should be able to knock it out of the park on. But I'll be honest with you, I'm prepared for them to fuck anything up at this point.
I want to talk about his methodology being exactly the same as Luigi Mangione's. So he was seen on video surveilling the place, looking for exactly the right target. It's not a coincidence that he got an embassy staffer. That was not blind luck. But he did the exact same thing that Luigi did. He walked past his target face to face to get positive identification, and then turned around and opened fire from behind. Yeah. That is significant. That is someone who's actually emulating to the T the technique used by Mangione, which begs the question: did they learn it somewhere?
Yeah, that sounds like a very deliberate TTP. And then, so this is a tweet from Kash Patel. I can confirm that today FBI agents arrested Joseph Neumeier, a dual U.S. and German citizen, on allegations of planning to firebomb the U.S. embassy in Tel Aviv, Israel, as well as making threats on. So, I mean, there's literally, I haven't even heard about this. Did you guys hear about this?
Yeah, I sent it to you.
Well, no, I haven't seen it. This is literally the first time I'm seeing this, so I guess I didn't see what you sent me. Like I said, I was kind of off X all weekend, so I might not have caught everything. But anyway, yeah. So this is so senseless, And the thing that makes it more senseless is this is not some sort of, heavily protected, dyed-in-the-wool Israeli kind of foreign policy guy who's like like connected to the big Israeli machine or whatever, right? These two were like as innocent as people. They're not even Jews, right? If you hate the Jews because they're going after Palestine, dim Jews or whatever, these are dim Christians, is what these guys are. Authorities said Rodriguez was seen outside the Jewish Museum in Washington, D.C., and then approached the group, shooting the couple at point-blank range. He yelled, "Free, free Palestine," as he was taken into custody. Once in handcuffs, the suspect identified where he discarded the weapon and that the weapon has been recovered. He implied that he committed the offense. So the next story I want to focus in on here is one that basically talks about who these two people were, and then we're going to talk about terrorism as America more broadly. So this is ABC News, and I kind of applaud ABC for doing this. It makes sense that you would do something like this in every type of story where people are just indiscriminately shot down, and the fact that with these politically motivated things, they tend to focus not on the victims and things like that, but just kind of dissembling for the audience. We don't know why he did this, and or it's just kind of like Joe. It's kind of like what we see in these vehicle murders where a car attacked a group of people, not like a man, an Arab man or a black man yeah. I mean, that's some like this is some sort of magical thing that just accidentally happens. I mean, shit happens, guys. You can't blame anybody. No, you can't. You can absolutely blame things. So these two were staffers at the Israeli embassy at the Capitol Jewish Museum in Washington, D.C. They were killed outside the event at the Capitol Jewish Museum in Washington, D.C. on Wednesday night. According to the foreign minister, Gideon Sar, the young couple were not diplomats, but instead Lashinsky was a researcher in the political department of the Israeli embassy, and Milgram organized U.S. missions to Israel. The couple was gunned down tonight. Were about to be engaged. The young man purchased a ring this week with the intention of proposing next week in Jerusalem. Israel's ambassador in Germany and friend of Lashinsky described the two victims as a young couple with a bright future planning their life together. So Lashinsky was born in Nuremberg, Germany, was a Christian and a true lover of Israel who chose to dedicate his life to the state of Israel and the Zionist cause. The son of Jewish father and a Christian evangelist mother, Lashinsky left Germany and came to Israel with his brother when he was 16 years old. Let's see, the head of the Agram Institute on Conservative Studies in Jerusalem said he attended an advanced program there, privileged to call both Jerusalem and Nuremberg my home. He was a man of faith. He took his Christian faith seriously. He was asking the big questions of life. He saw himself as someone who wants to be part of the story of the Jewish people. Joe, for somebody, for all the people who are out there are like, but he had deep connections to the Messianic community, and like they're making this kind of big, like he was basically a Jewish sleeper cell. I mean, this is pretty sick stuff. To kind of to lean that hard into hatred in order to justify something like this.
Leftists will make up anything.
Yeah, I mean,
by the violence that they want to perpetrate.
To believe that you're justified simply because you think somebody is a member of a certain religious or political group is a moral stretch I just simply can't make. It's an absolutely ludicrous proposition that just because these people happen to visit a Jewish museum, they should be killed. That's an ideology I can never coexist with. That is a thought process I can never wrap my head around. So I can't attempt to explain these people other than tell you the fact that this means you need to train, you need to be far more situationally aware than you are today.
Yeah, Joe, I mean, the thing for me is that, I mean, it goes down to the whole tribal identitarian thing that, whether it's racially motivated or religiously motivated or nationally motivated, when you paint with a broad brush any group of people and say that they are deserving of some kind of lesser treatment, that's where you totally lose me, right? And that's exactly what this guy did to these people, and you have to suspend like all of the kind of philosophical development of the Western world led us to this idea of individualism, and you have to basically throw all of that completely out in order to kind of justify that, and so it's nonsensical to me, right? Why this is even a consideration. Let's see, Lashinsky. So he basically became a Israeli citizen. He served in the IDF for 3 years. He was described as bright, curious, and engaged at school. Embodied the Judeo-Christian values and set an example for young people all over the world. So Sarah Lynn Milgram worked in the embassy's Department of Public Diplomacy for almost 2 years. She described herself, I hate this. This is totally LinkedIn speak too. I hate that she's being remembered this way. She described herself as a dynamic professional. See, this is why you don't use any of those like business buzzwords on your LinkedIn profile, because that's how the media will remember you when they don't know who you are. Let's see. She said her passion lies at the intersection of peace building, religious engagement, and environmental work. Well, 2 out of 3 ain't bad. She was an American citizen, according to the AP. Before her time at the embassy, she worked in Tel Aviv for Tech to Peace, which provides high-tech and entrepreneurial training alongside conflict dialogue to young Palestinians and Israelis. Let's see. Milgram received 2 master's degrees, one in international affairs from American University and another in natural resources and sustainable development from University of Peace in Costa Rica. A bachelor's degree. The irony is she was probably a left-leaning liberal, just from the sound of it. She just didn't have a unnatural hatred for Jews and Israel. Let's see. The University of Kansas Jewish community said that Milgram's friends described her as a definition of the best person, and that she made meaningful contributions that continue to resonate today. Let's see. Somebody else said that. Let's see, had dedicated her career to building bridges and bringing together Israeli and Palestinian communities. She was the kindest person. She completely devoted to fighting climate change and to working for peace. She had worked with Israelis and Palestinians on so many different issues to try and build bridges, and she worked so hard to solve the climate crisis. This is a heartbreaking tragedy for all of us. So, I mean, it doesn't matter how pure of thought your leftist credentials show you out to be, you will become meat for the grist for the machine, essentially. And it's so sad, like these two getting. But this is the face of American terrorism, right? You look at those two, and they are the face of American terrorism. Now, guys, this is not an exhaustive list, but I kind of put together a little list of American terror events, right? And so, I used AI to do this, and so it's not perfect, but the thing I didn't do is ask for it to differentiate between like left wing and right wing, right? I just said, give me a list of kind of terror events in America since the election, and this is going most recent to. It's a little out of order, but anyway, you'll see what it is. So first one, of course, is this anti-Semitic assassination. You've got Tesla vandalism and arson across the U.S. Multiple events, by the way, so that's not just one. Fertility clinic bombing in Palm Springs. The arson of the Republican Party headquarters in New Mexico. Louis Maggione's killing of the healthcare CEO. Josh Shapiro's residence fire in Pennsylvania. He's the governor. New Orleans truck attack in Louisiana, Islamic. Las Vegas car bombing at Trump Tower. They tried to pin that on right-wing stuff because of the guy's background. But ultimately, if you're blowing up a bomb in front of Trump Tower in a Cybertruck, first of all, that guy didn't do this. No fucking way. But it's left-wing terror. Virginia pipe bomb discovery, 500 pipe bombs found in a home, terror links probed. Houston city block shutdown, which was tied to the New Orleans attack. All right. That like I said, that is not an exhaustive list. I can think of 2 or 3 off the top of my head that weren't. There's the power station transformer attacks that are all linked mostly to Antifa. I think there are maybe some neo-Nazis ones sprinkled in there, but that's about it. And almost every synagogue or anti-Semitic killing in the last 5 years is almost always linked to either Islamic or left-wing terror. Gentlemen, there's not one list of thing here that's occurring that is because of right-wing terror. What happened to the whole domestic violent extremists that they were worried so much about during the Biden administration? It's almost like they were taking Edward Bernays' propaganda book and trying to spread lies and to change the viewpoint of people. Joe, I mean, call me crazy, but we have an epic of terror.
You're just crazy because the guy who blew up the fertility clinic was clearly right wing. That's what the media will tell you.
Well, somebody argued. Joe, somebody argued that the Islamic terrorists are all conservative.
They're not.
That is how they are recorded in almost all of the terrorist things. Anything that's considered a religious motivation is actually, to be honest, the way that left wings defines left wing is basically anything not us or that could make us look bad is not left wing.
Patrick Seven says, I can tell you, at least here in Michigan, talking to church security folks, there's been an uptick of Asian men more or less casing churches. Now, when you say Asian men, you're probably not just meaning like Chinese men or, East Asian men. You're probably thinking also Central Asian and Pakistani style Asian men. So that's understandable. Not disassociation from this whole thing. Lance Corporal Bet, $2 says, so Summer of Love 2.0, folks. Yeah, I mean, yes.
It's going to look very different. It's not. There's going to be some protests, but actually, I think that the assassinations are going to be the key thing.
I agree with this. I think that the protest will be some of the AstroTurf, so they won't be as big and organic, and I don't think we'll see the kind of mass violence, that just kind of senseless, unfocused violence that we saw during the Summer of Love. I think it'll be way more targeted, direct action. I mean, Joe, you've got a better pulse on this. What's your kind of take on that? Joe, did you step away?
Oh, I'm sorry. I did. I actually just walked back in the room. What's up?
Oh, okay. No, I was asking if what you've got your finger on the pulse of this kind of domestic violence extremist attack. And this is, I think that's legitimately what this is. The problem is that none of them, they're not right wing. They're all left wing.
Well,
what do you think?
The problem is that the FBI and ATF are so focused on, and DHS are all focused on the wrong people. They're focused on right wing terror. They're focused on these other groups. This is absolutely domestic terror. They are out there. They are targeting people. I want to point something out that there are folks in our space who will say, no, you're not going to get a Summer of Love 2.0. You're right. You're probably not going to get mass street protests like we had in 2020. You are going to get this continued low-level insurgency that we are seeing with more violence, more deaths, and more explosions, just not as many street protests. As I keep telling everyone, you are already in a guerrilla war. Only one side is fighting. You have to pay attention to that.
Hey guys, I got to take off.
Okay. Watcher, I mean, we could call it here, guys. I mean, we've kind of hit the Watcher, final thoughts.
Crap. Sorry, you said that, and then something started playing on my other screen. Final thoughts for everybody. Develop your security plan, do your area plan, and figure out where your food comes from. You are running out of time. We have a nice brief reprieve here. We don't know how long that's going to last. Get your shit sorted.
Good point. Joe, final thoughts?
My final thoughts are just like I just said, keep your eye on the ball, be paying attention, get out there. We have a $5 from Lance Corp Veteran, by the way, that I want to address.
Oh, yeah. I just saw that. Lance Corp Veteran, hold on, let me read it real quick. Lance Corp Veteran for $5 says, keep an eye out for the PSL Party for Socialism and Liberation. They are from the Northwest and are currently regularly protesting in San Francisco every weekend.
The only thing I'm going to disagree with is that they're from the Northwest. The PSL is nationwide. They've been all over for a very, very long time. And I'll be honest, I've been warning about them for about 5 years, ever since 2020. I've been telling y'all that the PSL is the armed wing of Antifa, and you need to watch out for them. And they're very, very dangerous. And they've been looking for a chance to do what they've been doing. PSL is who killed those two people in Washington, D.C. It's likely that PSL is who was killed outside of the CIA headquarters 12 hours later. They are out there. You need to be paying attention. They're everywhere. So while you might not see the big mass street protests, you do need to be aware of the fact that leftist violence is increasing, and they will kill you simply because of what you believe and who you voted for.
Yeah, that's pretty critical. Yeah, I mean, so like these two people who were murdered last week, these were not threatening people. They just happened to align themselves with the Israelis, and basically that meant that was a death sentence for them. So it's very much about loyalty with these people. All right, guys, that's all I've got. I appreciate you, Watcher, staying here at the end. Joe, as always, my friend, you're doing the Lord's work there. Looking forward to some more amazing stories about all this good stuff going on there. If you guys haven't done it already, please subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, share the links with your buddies, let them know you're getting good stuff over here. We appreciate you very much. And as always, stay safe.